Hello, everybody. My name is Bruce Montgomery, and this is my colleague, Tracy Priest.
Hello, everybody.
And we're with The Road to Retail. On our podcast, Tracy and I hope to offer tips, insights, ideas, and examples for how small, emerging, and challenger CPG, consumer packaged goods, brands can build their business. Everything from determining if you're ready to grow, where to start, how to prove it online, how to go about securing distribution at a national retailer, driving your business with the end consumer, and how to go about finding an investor if that's important to you. The bottom line is, we would love to help you be successful by highlighting the many important factors that go into establishing and growing your brand.
Bruce and I have been working in CPG commercial operations for over 30 years, working on brands of all sizes. By commercial operations, we mean sales, marketing, trade marketing, new product development, broker and distributor management, new product development, brand M&A, and financing. As a part of our show, we bring our guests that are brand founders and leaders, agencies, Amazon specialists, sales agents, contract manufacturers, retailers, and investors to discuss their experiences and share their insights with the audience.
To keep up with the show, please subscribe to the Road to Retail podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. Leave us a review and consider sharing the show with a friend or colleague that may benefit from the content. You can also check out our website to learn more at www.road2retail.com and follow The Road to Retail on LinkedIn. We would love to have you along for the ride. Today's show is sponsored by Retail and Response. You've heard it a million times on this podcast. It's not about getting your product on the retail shelf. It's about moving product off the shelf and hitting the retailer's sales velocity hurdles fast. Otherwise, they're going to begin the discontinuation process. Trust me. A slow sales start can be fatal to your brand. You need consumers coming in seeking your brand. You know, the one they heard about on radio or saw on TV. If you think radio or TV advertising is too expensive, you need to speak with our friends at Retail and Response. With over 30 years helping drive hundreds of millions of dollars of sales for their clients, Retail and Response can get your brand on radio and TV for pennies on the dollar. Check them out at retailandresponse.com. That's retailandresponse.com.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Road to Retail, where we just find our passion and love for small emerging brands. Good to see you, Bruce. How you doing today?
Tracy, I am doing excellent. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic.
Well, why don't you tell us who we have on the show here today? I think this is going to be a great episode.
Oh, I think so too. We are so excited to have Lydia Lee on our show today. Lydia Lee is the founder of For the Clout. So welcome, Lydia, and thanks again for being a part of our podcast.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Awesome. So Lydia, let's jump in. And why don't you tell our small emerging brand audience a little bit about yourself and your background and how you got to be the founder of For the Clout.
Yeah. Well, hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. A little bit about me is I've been in the influencer marketing and social media space for about 15 years now. I've always consulted for a variety of consumer packaged goods brands in the US, but you could say my claim to fame is I helped a company called Nut Pods get their start. They're a dairy-free coffee creamer company. And we built
that brand, by the way. Big fan. Here.
Thank you. Yeah. So we built that brand out of each other's houses and basements to a multi-million-dollar company. I left after almost 11 years because we sold to M. Pearl Rock, which is spearheaded by the ex-CEO of Keurig and the ex-president of Coca-Cola. And I cashed out my stocks and went full force into my own consulting, which is called For the Clout. So here I am today.
That is awesome. I love that and love that brand. Love it. So great. So Bruce.
Yeah, I think we've made it clear that Tracy likes Nut Pod. So well done, Lydia. So
I did my job.
So Lydia, with the owners of small emerging challenger brands or leaders of those types of brands and investors, Talk about once you jumped to go into this full force, what gap did you see in the market that told you he's like, you know what, this for the cloud idea rolling around in my head, I think I have a chance to be successful, and here's why.
Yeah. So I've always kind of consulted on the side for emerging consumer packaged goods brands, and they always like everyone is like, you know, I hear so often, I've tried influencer marketing and it doesn't work for me. I tried this or tried that. Like I threw some money, I sent out 100 samples and didn't really get a return. And so I help people think through that and do what I like to call back napkin math and strategy to see if one, influencer marketing is something you can financially take on, and to kind of manage realistic expectation when it comes to influencer marketing. Because a lot of people, I like to give analogies to explain things and like really hit it home. It's the same thing as like if you were to go to the gym once and you're like, why haven't I lost 20 pounds? You're like, of course, you went to the gym once. You have to consistently go to see results to lose that 20 pounds. It's the same thing with influencer marketing. People expect just an immediate return and overnight success when that is really not the case. It takes consistency and it takes touch points over time for you to really see results. And so I help brands essentially do back and napkin math strategy and see if it's something that they can even take on in their current life cycle of growing their brand.
I love that. That's awesome.
When
So,
you talk about, sorry, Tracy, Lydia, when you talk about back of the napkin math, just maybe go just a touch deeper there. I'm a big fan of not needing a 4,000 cell spreadsheet to figure out if something may or may not work.
Yeah, so a lot of people bleed through samples and just like expect a return on investment. And they don't really go through thinking through like, okay, what's the cost to acquire an influencer, right? It's usually like what I like to call seeding product. It's like a low tier offer. You're going to bleed through samples. And then it's what I like to call a welcome package, where it's like a little higher tier offer to join your marketing funnel, join your influencer program, your ambassador, your affiliate program, whatever you're trying to build, and that's your cost to acquire an influencer. And then you're like, okay, now I have this influencer. What's my cost of maintaining that influencer? So in this day and age, it's a lot of gifting, right? You're going to continuously gift them product, new product launches when you're launching new flavors. Um, just to keep them happy. And also, in this day and age, everyone and their mom wants to get paid. So it's like the cost of doing paid activations, right? That's another cost of maintaining that influencer in your marketing funnel. And then you have to think about, okay, well, now I have my cost to acquiring an influencer, my cost of maintaining that influencer. What's the cost of acquiring a new customer through an influencer, right?
yeah,
Is it is it something that I can afford to do only on new customers, or is it something that I could do for repeat customers? Is it more competitively priced than doing paid advertising or other marketing mix, strategies? And then like to measure the, yeah, I guess like the lifetime success of your influencer marketing program, we'll go, 6 months down the line, 9 months down the line to compare your CPMs for your paid advertising versus like your influencer marketing exposure. And then over time, we can track the lifetime value of the customer that you're getting through an influencer. Is the lifetime value of that customer higher through someone that discovers you through an influencer or someone that discovers you through a paid ad or someone that like maybe discovers you at retail, or like a Hulu TV spot? So we'll compare. But if we're doing our job right, the lifetime value of a customer that discovers you through an influencer is going to be on average much higher.
Interesting.
great insight. Love that. So, I think you'll agree, and any category in the grocery store is very competitive. So, talk to us a little bit about your view on differentiation and how you help the brands you work with figure out, am I really different? Because everybody's going to say that they are, right? We have a saying here at the show, my baby's beautiful. I go to the farmer's market and I sell out and my mom and my brother love it. But
Yeah.
talk to us about differentiation and your view on that and how you help brands figure that out.
Well, it's all about storytelling and who can tell the best story when it comes to marketing,
Yeah.
right? And so everyone thinks everyone thinks they're worth more than they are. Everyone thinks that they're special, right? And
Mhm.
so it's like, and everyone is. Like, let me back up and say everyone is special in their
Sure.
own way. But what differentiates you and what makes you a leader in the space is how many other people you can convince of that and how many of those people you can get to tell their story and also like tell their community, their audience that they believe that you are the best option on the market or better than your competitor, right?
Yeah.
And it goes back to bleeding through samples. It's like really a numbers game and also like fostering long-term relationships with influential people in your area, whether it's like on a community level in person through experiential marketing and like, sponsoring, let's say like in-person events. It could be anything from like church bake sales to like Weight Watchers and Tone It Up events, right? For people that are like a better for you product, or it's like building an online community through an ambassador and affiliate program.
Awesome.
Interesting. So, Lydia, once you determine that a brand is in fact differentiated and may have a place in the market, how do you work with these brand founders and leaders who are often wearing many, many hats to really focus their marketing strategy versus the temptation to, put 15 pots on the stove and then wonder why none of them ever boil?
Yeah. Oh my God, I love this. So, I, in the beginning, always have a goal setting meeting and tactic setting meeting because often I find that like brands I work with, they get lost in the tactic, which is influencer marketing, right? And they think it's like the goal. Like we want to do influencer marketing, that's our goal. That's not a goal. That's a tactic to achieve a larger goal. Your
Right.
goal is something measurable, like you want to do 20 million in sales in retail, or you want to do 15 million sales in e-com, or maybe you have like a share of voice goal that's like, what does success look like to you online? Is it the amount of followers you have? Is it the amount of media mentions you got for the year? And so we establish all of these measurable goals. We like for the year, we'll pick five, like your top five goals throughout the whole entire year across all departments, and they have to be measurable. And then we will fit influencer marketing and social media marketing to as a tactic to achieve your larger goal. So, like for example, if you want to do 20 million in retail by the end of 2025, a tactic to achieve that goal would be building a brand ambassador program to and like having them show product on shelf with a call to action to convert in store and maybe utilizing some sort of rebate offer where we can track like conversions in store to see if your sales velocities are going up over time, right? That's a tactic that we can use influencer marketing to achieve a higher goal.
Yeah.
And so then everything we do as the year comes up, because there's so much stuff that comes up, right? We'll be like, okay, is this one marketing initiative or like trade show we want to do or whatever, is it attributing to one of our overall goals? If yes, we should do it. If no, we will skip it and do something else.
So, Lydia, how do you help I love that you said the first thing is we're going to set goals, not talk about tactics, because many founders, and I'm guilty, and I was, running bigger brands. You come in and the impetus and kind of the firecracker under your butt is I just want to do stuff. I
Yeah,
gotta do stuff, man.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But so the fact that you're sitting there setting goals is great and not letting people act like, puppies that got into the chocolate and they're just spastic. How do you help the brand really identify their target? Because in the case of a food, right? So Tracy and I, we like to, talk about gluten-free chocolate chip cookies. So, how do you help them say, look, you're not the only one? Well, anyone who likes cookies, that's my target. No, it's gluten free, and then it's chocolate chip. So that narrows down your target, but there's a bunch of people in this space. How are we different? So how do you kind of force the people to keep digging to really figure out who their target is?
Yeah, we through it. Okay, so I would answer this differently depending on the life cycle of the brand. But like
Mhm.
typically we would go for low hanging fruit, right? So who is like this very niche audience we could go after and dominate and then expand from there. So in the example of nut pods, our low hanging fruit was Whole 30. So we were the only Whole 30 approved creamer on the market. We literally like went all in on Whole 30. We became Whole 30 certified. We were the only product on the at the time that was Whole 30 approved. And then we infiltrated Facebook groups. We like reach out to all of their Whole 30 coaches. And once we felt like we really dominated that, we expanded to the keto crowd, the paleo crowd, the Weight Watchers crowd, the Tone It Up. And once we've dominated the diet crowd, we expanded to everyone's dairy-free creamer. And so it's kind of just like, it's like blocking and tackling these small groups. And once you conquer it, you expand from there because once you're more targeted, especially as you're emerging, you have limited budgets. You
Yeah.
don't have these wild like amount of resources to just cast a wide net. In the beginning, we can kind of test and learn, right? And see what the data is telling us and being like, oh, actually, keto people really love us. Maybe we should go after this. They're the ones who are really engaging with us, right? But if you're a more established brand that's like, you have an idea of who your consumer is at retail, I would evaluate like, okay, who is like someone that discovers you through a meta ad, right, is going to be different than someone that discovers you through TikTok, is going to be different than someone that discovers you like at retail. And you're talking to so many different consumers. And so I would really like lean into the data, what it says your main audience is and who's purchasing you at those different channels and touch points. And then leaning into optimizing messaging, imaging, all of that into that target audience. And then once we feel like we really captured that person for that channel and that vertical, who's your next like low hanging fruit group we can go after?
Yeah, so it's kind of like the pebble in the pond, right? That first ripple out and then it gets bigger. So whether it's your target market or the other example, Lydia, that we talk about is a geographic expansion. If
Mhm.
you have regional strength, start there and then
Yeah.
expand out from there. So that was really great.
I,
Tracy?
I want to go one. I have a question about the objectives, and I love that goal setting. So, how many brands come to you and say, "I just want 1 million followers"? Like they just want to be they just want to be famous, or they want their baby, aka the brand, to be famous. So, are there really brands out there that say, they really look at it from a revenue standpoint, or do they really look at it as, I just I just want 1 million followers. I just want to be
So
Kim Kardashian.
yeah, I always push back and I'm like, well, why? Like, does it make it more impressive? Like, are you trying to get a new like valuation and raise money? Like, what is like 1 million followers equate to you online? And that could be your share of voice goal, right?
Okay,
So
yeah,
like it like, and that's one of the metrics where it's like, okay, what is your share of voice goal? What does success look like to you there? And like do followers translate into dollars or is that like social proof? Does that give you more brand equity? And then like we can optimize for that, certainly. But I would do it probably through giveaways and like, through other things where you could get a lot of followers really, really fast. Um, and we would talk through all the tactics to achieve that goal and whether or not, like at the end of the day, should it be one of your main goals? Because if
right.
it's if it's a make or break you situation for, getting more funding, for example, right? Like, okay, fine, right? But usually that's not the case,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
All
exactly.
it's all about revenue.
Yes, that's what I thought. But when you said that, I was thinking, okay, well, how many brands actually just want social media? So let's talk about social media a little bit. So obviously, many small emerging brands rely on social media. We've talked about influencer marketing, but how do you help brands think about social media and maybe talk about, what channels you like to work?
Yeah. So I like to do okay, so I heard this from another really successful content creator and strategist, JT Barnett. And the way that he explains social media and the way that he sees it, I completely agree, where influencers are the new brands and brands are the new networks. So you think about your favorite TV network, CW, MSNBC, ABC, they have all of these ongoing series in different categories to attract various audiences. So you have like murder mystery, rom-com, the news, right? And then people tune in to these social series. And that's how you can engage with your audience and capture more people. And so like as a brand, you want to basically like identify your target audiences, right?
Yeah.
Identify like what really makes them tick, you know? So like let's say the millennial mom who's like a new mom who's really rooted in nostalgia and reality, right? Who would probably she's like not a Lord of the Rings fan, but she loves a Mean Girl like post, right? And so like we're gonna pump out Mean Girl memes, for example, like relating to pop culture that she's used to and grew up with, that like we can also, you know, put in a Nut Pods carton in there or like make a pop reference where she's really going to engage with. And so like we'll really dive deep into like the psyche of like your target audience online and create social series that your brand can put out to attract and target your target audience to like increase engagement, increase visibility, your follower count. And then once we decide like what your 4 to 6 ongoing series are, right? We'll like highlight the top 6. We'll do it for a couple months. We'll look at the results. Okay, this one's really performing well. We'll keep this one. This one's a dud. Let's switch that out for another one, you know? And then once we determine what these series are, we're going to divide and conquer like, okay, this one with the memes, like we just have to hire, you know, someone to create meme content for us, like that's easy, right? This one is more like UGC, user generated style content where we can outsource to an influencer. And then that's the content that you want to actually pay an influencer for and being very laser focused on like, okay, I'm going to pay an influencer for this specific social series that we're trying to build that will reach this target audience instead of like spraying and praying and hoping for the best when it comes to
That never
like
works.
Wait, that doesn't work? I got to take that off my list. So,
yeah.
so Lydia, um, this is super interesting. Lots of brands use influencers, and we all see them with mixed results when they don't, engage with someone like you who actually knows what they're doing. How do you counsel brands to work with influencers in regard to selecting those that make sense versus every, person that just raises their hand? You already proved that you're a metrics driven person. How do you set those metrics? What kind of oversight can a brand expect over an influencer versus someone who, just goes crazy and, does stuff where you're, as the brand manager, you're like, I just lost my job. And then, how do you compensate these people?
Yeah. So I just it totally like it depends on the product. It depends on the level of creator. Typically like if you're going for a larger creator, excuse me, if you can negotiate a revenue share model, that is definitely the best. Where, it's like they only really get paid if they perform and drive sales to your business, right? Most of the time, people want a flat fee though. So when evaluating like a flat fee creator, I always look at their engagement rate. And okay, so let me back up. Invest in software, like I really recommend investing in software to make you make more educated guesses and like you can scale your program and keep headcount low if you invest in software. What I will say though is like you don't go to Home Depot, buy a toolkit, and you're like, so when's my house going to be built? It's a tool that you have to use, like if you don't use it, it's not going to work unless you outsource to an agency, right? Where like they handle everything for you. But back to finding the right creator, like when you invest in software, usually there's tools to tell you like what their average engagement rate is. And so I don't work with anyone that has less than a 3% engagement rate because that tells me like your followers are most likely bots and you're influencing your mom. And so at least a 3% engagement rate, that's industry average, especially for food and beverage. And then also I look at like for flat rate creators, I look at your average video views, right? And I calculate your average CPM value where, is it competitive, right? Am I getting a good, like, how much is it going to cost me to get 1,000 eyeballs on average when I partner with you versus, doing like a traditional paid ad? Usually, CPM values for influencers are going to be higher, right, than doing like a meta ad, for example. But then you have to factor in the offset media production costs, right? So if you were going to go to, a content house and pay them to create, let's say, 20 videos for you, that has a value to it, right? It's going to cost you X amount of dollars to create 20 videos. Well, now with influencer marketing, you can offset media production costs and you don't have to pay that fee to a content house. Now you're outsourcing it to an influencer. You're getting to reach their whole potential audience, right? You're getting a video testimonial of someone else saying how great you are, which is contributing to your story and potentially like selling your product for you. And so beyond like your CPM value to measure efficiency of the content, you have to factor in the offset media production cost value as well, right?
So, how, Lydia, are there sources out there, kind of like the old, Nielsen had audience levels and IRI can track your sales? Are there sources that a brand can look at? I mean, how do you know what someone's engagement rate is? I mean, how do you even know if you had our famous, world famous gluten-free chocolate chip cookie? How would I even begin to narrow down who my influencers should be?
Yeah. So, okay. So, yes, there is software out there where you can see an engagement rate. So, like, for example, GRIN. GRIN is an influencer marketing software tool that has a Chrome extension where it gives you a engagement rate for that specific creator. And then when it comes to finding out who your creator is, again, I would lean on who you're trying to go after, who you're trying to target, your low-hanging niche, right? Of people. Does that person fall into your target consumer category? Or are they really good at storytelling and their audience, like, the majority of people that follow them is that millennial mom, right? It doesn't
Mm.
have to be them themselves. We could do, and again, through software, there's a ton of different influencer marketing software companies out there where you can run audience reports and see. And that's what I like to lean on as well, because I'm like, okay, this is a great influencer. They have millions of followers, but the majority of their followers are in Latin America. We're only sold in like North America. That does nothing for us. Like, let's not invest in this influencer, right?
Yeah.
That's a good point about understanding where the audience is coming from. Because a
Yeah,
brand sold in the US, if I have 25,000 influencers in Brazil, that's sort of nice, but it's not going to help me.
of course. Yeah.
Well, thank
Great.
you, Lydia, for naming one of the software. So that was going to be my question. Can you name one? I'm just curious, like, what is the cost scale of an influencer, like between Mr. Beast, Kim Kardashian, and Bruce Montgomery?
I mean, you're looking at equity at that point, right? Like if you want a celebrity type deal,
Mhm.
you're looking at giving up equity, or like a way that I got around this is doing a product line, right? Like a limited time offer product line that's launching with a specific creator. And so something that we did over at NetPods is like we launched a collection with Remy Cruz, who I love. She's a YouTube creator. She has her own cooking show with like Cooking with Remy, and she's kind of like a rising star on YouTube. Instead of, creating a whole new product, right? Which like
Right.
takes in the food
Forever.
world.
And
You're looking at
very expensive.
very expensive. You're talking about like a lot of inventory risk,
Yeah.
right? So
Yep.
like we came up with a collection where it was existing flavors. She picked her three favorite flavors and we just created a box essentially, right? Of her favorite flavors. We did co-branding on this box. And it was kind of like a crawl, walk, run situation where if she did really well on this limited time release for this collection, we could we could look at creating a custom flavor with her, you know? And
Hmm.
then
Love that.
with influencers and like people that are trying to make that leap from like a big time influencer to a celebrity, they're really trying to get their hands into like products, right? Especially
Sure.
products
Where the
they
money
love.
is.
Exactly. And so when you're doing, and also they do it for the clout, right? Influencers do everything for the clout, and they want to like show that their name is on a product from a brand that they love, that they've been supporting for years, and it gives them more brand equity and,
Yeah.
more street cred.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. No, this is this is so fascinating. I do have to throw one thing in. Bruce Montgomery is a huge Mean Girls fan, so I'm glad that you threw out the whole Mean Girls thing. Um,
Yeah.
Yes, yes, I've got a poster right here behind me.
it's just blocked by your backdrop. I love
That's
it. I had to
true.
throw that out. So talk to us a little bit about how you work with the brand. Obviously, small emerging brand audience that's listening today. T talk to us about how you work with them because money is obviously very, tight sometimes with these small brands. So, is it through automation, outsourcing? How do you work with them?
Yeah, great
What's your
question.
structure?
So I do what I like to call like the infrastructure. So again, like when I work with a client, we do back napkin math, high level goal setting. We do all of this like the social media strategy we discussed and like target demographic stuff. And usually, that's like phase one of my infrastructure package to see that like, is this something you can financially take on right now?
Right.
Right? In
Good
order to
point.
succeed. Because I don't sugarcoat it. I'm like, literally, it takes 3 months to like build an infrastructure and like bring on a software for you to scale your program. And it takes about like 6 to 9 months of actually consistently doing it before you see results. Like, and that's just how anything is in life, right? It's like being consistent in over time to see sustainable results. This is not like an overnight thing. And so I usually do back napkin math with them first to see if this is something that they can do financially, or maybe you'll revisit this and you put it in the budget for 2026, right?
Yeah.
And then if you pass that test, then it's like, okay, let's talk about implementing software. So GRIN is like one software I really like. Super Affiliate is another one. Social Snowball is another one. There's like a ton depending on your strategy. So like if you're optimizing just direct to consumer on ecom, I like have a suggestion for you. If you're trying to optimize and send people into retail, I have a different suggestion for you. So we'll evaluate your product offerings, we'll evaluate your contribution margin per product, and we'll dive into it and see like what commissions can you afford to give, what discounts can you afford to give to customers, what software is the best fit for your specific use case. And then
Lydia, are these software packages, are they licenses? Are they free? Or are they something I don't want to say control, but you have them and then you kind of work with the software for your clients? Or is this yet another piece of software that an entrepreneur needs to learn, which, he or she probably needs like a hole in the head with all the other things they're doing?
yeah. So it just like, so I offer both fractional consulting and executionary consulting. So if you have a person in place, like let's say a 25-year-old or like an early college graduate that's doing your social media, and you just want me to like help you build the infrastructure to scale and then train this person to manage your stuff, I offer that. If you don't want to hire another person, you want to keep headcount low and you want to just outsource, I have an agency in place where we can do all of that for you and you don't have to learn another software.
Okay.
That's good to know. One-stop shopping then, depending on
That
where
is
you are on the scale of expertise.
That is
Yeah.
good. So,
Smart.
so Lydia, if a brand comes to you and they've started direct to consumer, it may not matter, but this is a point of curiosity. If a brand has started DTC, what tells do you look for in terms of their performance before you recommend that they try to go more traditional brick and mortar? And how would you tweak your influencer marketing to help them, expand their business through that channel?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we could see, I would just look at overall sales. And I mean, a lot of people pitch to like Target, Whole Foods, and they're in regional stores. And we prepare for that. Like a lot of people come to me initially being like, okay, I just signed in Target for next year and I want to build an influencer marketing program to, support our sales velocities at Target. What can we do? I'm like, okay, perfect. Like let's build an online community. We'll target like that geographical area where you plan on launching. So like if you're doing target, let's say in Texas, right? And that's your regional test and it like, we'll evaluate, okay, what are the average sales velocities in your category? What is the number that you need to hit in order to become a staple or unlock a new region? And so we'll evaluate like who your target consumers are, who you're trying to talk to, and then we'll figure out like we'll look for people in your geographical area. And then we'll reach out to those people and create a big cohort to attack that area. But in regards to like what I don't give recommendations on whether or not you should make the leap from e-com to retail. I just help you support at retail if you make that leap. And like I'm like an architect where I come in and I'm like, okay, this is what we need. This is the software we need. This is like the cadence at which we need to reach out to and like how much budget we should set aside for sampling, right? When
Yep.
in order to like pull this off. Because like another thing is like a lot of people don't think about the conversion rate of influencer outreach. So it takes a lot of time to research influencers, right? That you want to target, let's say in Texas. Like I want to target millennial moms in Texas, age range like 35, right? That live within, a 10-mile radius of in a Target or an HEB. That takes a lot of time for me to like have my team research that. And then it's like for every, 1,000 creators you reach out to, there's about like a 20 to 25% conversion rate where people will come back and be like, yeah, I'd love to try your product. So you reach out, you research 1,000 people, you reach out to 1,000 people, but about 200 are like, yeah, I want to try your product, right? So
Right.
then if you're trying to increase household penetration by 1,000, well, we're going to have to multiply that, right, by 5 in order for us to hit our goals. And that takes a lot of time. And so I bring like a more realistic voice view and like math approach to it to make sure that like we're hitting all of our goals in a timely manner.
How do you find that first 1,000 people to send the samples to see if they want to, get involved?
Yeah, through a variety of methods. If you're utilizing software that has an influencer search tool, I would use that. I would also evaluate who are your target consumers and what are some complementary products they're using, right? So for example, does your millennial mom, does she wear Lululemon? Is that a complementary product to you? Let's go after Lululemon to see who they're working with, right? Maybe she
That's
uses
smart.
chosen foods for her oil, like or her avocado oil, or like Branch Basics for her cleaning supplies, Like what are some complementary products this person is using every day and consuming? And then let's go look at that brand's like their influencers they're working with, who's championing, I can't speak, their products, right? And doing really well at storytelling for that brand. And so
That's
that's
awesome. I love that. I love
Interesting.
I love how you talk about storytelling and just the amount of automation that's now going into social media and influencers.
yeah.
People didn't, I had no idea. So that's awesome. I love
I mean,
it.
that's the key really to scale. So like when I was at NetPods, right? Like we built an online community of 600 engaged influencers nationwide. And it was like me and one other girl. And like
Wow.
I found out like through automation, I was able to build a program that was like about, 250 to 300 people. And that was like my cap, just me. And I was able to do that through automating and like systems and setting everything up, communication flows, like social media flows. And then by adding another person, I was able to double our output.
Right. Wow.
Wow.
Fascinating. Fascinating. So tell us, Lydia, what's the best piece of advice you'd give a small emerging brand as they're embarking on their, you know, initial growth process? What's your best advice?
Do math. It's like do math. I like find people like bankrupt themselves or they just get very frustrated because they don't do the legwork in the beginning to do the math before they spend all this money, You have limited resources. You need to be very careful about your spend. Take the time to do the math to see if this is even something you should take on in this moment in time, right?
I love that. So, Bruce, I think we have a new bumper sticker. Do the math.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was going to say Lydia must have a very large napkin because she's always doing math on on her napkin. It's more
Yeah.
like a drop cloth that she's painting her living room.
Really.
So Lydia, as we start pushing toward the end here, Who's had the greatest influence on your career, and what did you learn from this person? And obviously you don't need to name names, but what did this person do that's really stuck with you and you're like, damn, I didn't realize how great that was.
I would have to say Madeline Hayden, who's the founder and CEO of NutPod. So we I was brought on right after her Kickstarter days, and we literally built that brand out of each other's houses and basements, right? And so I mean, I was with her for almost 11 years, and I learned how to be a CEO and founder through her, through example. She gave me room to test and learn. And like influencer marketing is very much like the wild, wild west. And I think something I appreciated with her because we had such limited resources, every single time I wanted to do something new, I would have to make a case for it. I would like be like,
Sure.
okay, well, if we bring on the software, I believe we can, increase our output by this. We can partner with this many people. And I would have to like sell it to her. And then I'd be like, okay, now I'm setting goals for myself. And this is what I have to hit, this is what I have to unlock. And I think she really challenged me to think the way that I think today, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love that.
That
Yeah.
sounds great. I mean, getting in there when literally you're working in the basement or the garage, and then you worked it all the way through to exit. Lots of people spin out along that path. Either they burn out, they get frustrated. There's one too many speed bumps, and you're like, I just can't. I can't. I can't patch the driveway one more time. I just can't. All right, Tracy, the fun question.
All right, I love this. I get to ask you the fun question. So, Lydia, tell us your favorite band, brand, or football team and why.
Aside from nut pods.
Yes, you can't say Nut
Aside
Pod.
from that pod. Okay, my favorite band, or hmm. Well, I don't want to play favoritism with brands because I work with a ton of them. So,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm gonna
It's like
pick.
saying, who is your favorite child?
I know. So I'm going to pick a band, and not really a band, but just an artist. I'm a huge fan of Frank Sinatra. I always say no one understands me like Frank does. I play Frank Sinatra while I cook, while I clean. It's like the music I have in my house all the time. And yeah, that's my
Wow. I
favorite.
didn't see that. I didn't see that one coming.
Yeah.
I think she's the youngest female Sinatra fan in the United
Yeah.
States.
Oh,
But
absolutely. Absolutely.
Old Blue Eyes could sing. That is for darn sure. For darn
Yeah.
sure. Hey, so Lydia, if people wanted to get in touch with you and learn more about your fascinating career path so far, or how For the Clout can help them, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah. Please reach out to me at Lydia at forthecloud.co is my email, or you can submit a contact request at forthecloud.co, not .com, .co.
Right. I love it. I love
All
it.
right, Tracy, the big finish.
Absolutely, Lydia. This has been fantastic. I learned a ton. I really did. And
Much. Thank you so much for having me.
I find it fascinating. So, anyway, thanks for joining us. And to our audience, please continue to follow us on our Road to Retail on Spotify, on Apple, also on LinkedIn. We also have a new website, roadtoretail.com, and we do post our episodes every Tuesday. So look for Lydia coming to one of our channels soon. So thank you again, Lydia. We really enjoyed it. It was great.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And I can't wait to chat with everyone.
Good
Awesome.
luck out there, folks.